Online dating is a different ballgame from meeting someone in real life, and in some ways, it's not. Learning about attractiveness and what makes relationships work can tell us a lot about how to use dating apps. Welcome to Maria Romano's True Love Knots. Maria invites best-selling author Barry Selby. They share what you should think about when engaging in online dating and how to become more desirable to anyone who comes across you or your online profile.
Hello, everybody out there. This is Maria Romano from True Love Knots from Las Vegas, Nevada. Well, I hope everybody's having a fabulous 2022. And you might be thinking about what you're going to be doing in your personal life, in your professional life. Well, have I got a treat for you today? I am so excited. I have one of my first guests for 2022 on, that his name is Barry Selby straight from LA, okay? Right across the state lines. And he's going to be talking a little bit about himself and what he does in the dating industry. And more importantly, for women. So you women out there that listen to my podcast, this is going to be a treat for you. And I want to just, first of all, welcome you. How are you doing today, Barry? Before I give them a little bit of a background about you.
I'm doing very well. Thank you for the invitation to be on your podcast. I'm grateful to be here.
Like I said, I am so excited, and I know my listeners are going to be excited. So before we jump into this, I want to just share with my listeners a little bit about Barry. And let me tell you something. I was impressed, okay, because I said to him, I felt like I was in the presence of an icon. So Barry is a passionate champion for the divine women feminine, helping strong, successful women create a balance in love. Isn't that important today? And to have also a successful business and also personal life. These are things that are so important. He is on a mission. He's on a mission, my friends, to awaken women to own and express their feminine, magnificence, and majesty. That's right, ladies. Remember, you're always the prize. He helps his clients attract relationships that equal who they are. And as a relationship attraction expert, and I love that what Barry has to say. He's affectionately known as the love doctor, woohoo, to his friends and clients. With more than, 35 years, that's 3.5 decades of training and experience, including a master's degree in spiritual psychology and over 22 years as a spiritual counselor. He's helped thousands learn to love themselves and live in wholeness. He's also, okay, with this impressive resume, he's a best-selling author, and his book is 50 Ways to Love Your Lover. And he helps singles and couples embody powerful principles for passionate and rich, rewarding relationships. He's also an inspirational speaker as well. And on a sidebar, when you listen to this podcast, my dear friends, and you send me a review, I'm going to pick somebody to be the recipient of Barry's book. So Barry, welcome. Woo-hoo!
Thank you so much. So glad to be here.
Well, like I said, I am so excited. And actually, what you talk about, I listened to one of your YouTube videos just, as a matter of fact, this morning when I was running, which is when I really get to listen to most of my podcasts and things like that. And I listened to a lot of relationship experts, because you know what, we are never really an expert. We're just always learning in this industry. And you've been doing this for 3.5 decades. I mean, think about it. That is unbelievable. So I have a question for you. How did you get started? How did this journey start for Barry?
Well, actually, just to clarify something, I've been in the personal development field for 35 years, but I've been coaching or teaching for about 15 years, just to be clear. So over 15 years ago, up to that point, my relationships had sucked, to be blunt. I had made many mistakes, screwed up many times. And having been in this personal development field, learning about how to be in a relationship, how to do better, how to be a better person, I was still messing it up. And so I knew something was off, something was missing. And after my last bad breakup, which is in 2006, I basically was like, okay, God, give me a sign, something, a clue, help me figure out what I'm missing. Because I know so much, but I'm still messing up. What am I doing wrong? What am I missing? Well, to leapfrog ahead, I basically found myself in a retreat that was exposing me, so to speak, or at least educating me about being masculine around the feminine energy, to understand what masculine and feminine energy was, because I'd never really understood those terms before. And what I didn't realize was for the previous 20 plus years, I was in a lot of spiritual personal development work that was moving me more into a softness, into a feminine space without me even realizing it. And so I was dating women back then who were more masculine than I was. They were more in charge, running the show, being like leaders, which was very attractive. I'm not arguing about that. However, I'd be the passive second partner in that relationship. And because the thing is, I had a deep aversion to being the macho, like I'm running the show, you follow me, I'm taking charge, because that wasn't what my dad did, and I didn't want to follow that lead. So anyway, in this retreat, we were doing practices with the men and the women, with men being more masculine, women being more feminine through the weekend. And on the final break, when we came back together, we stood facing each other, 50 women, 50 men, give or take. And we'd spent the weekend as men understanding, opening up to, and deepening in a masculine truth and owning it. So we're standing there shoulder to shoulder with the men like brothers, like we were grounded, we knew who we were. And I felt it was an amazing experience. Across from us was this wall of feminine light, women owning their feminine. And I said it before, energetically it brought me to my knees. Because when I saw that magnificence and what women really are in their feminine, I was absolutely in worship of that. And so I've been dedicated to serving that energy ever since, which is why my work is helping women own their feminine, because frankly, it's selfish. The more women I see in their feminine, the more rewarded I feel to see that in the world. And also, just quickly sidebar, masculine and feminine energy are not uniquely just for one or the other. We carry both. But generally in heterosexual relationships, men can do better being the masculine, and women can do better being in the feminine as a general rule. Again, there's exceptions, of course. So that's what led me to my work. And also, to be honest, I've been a shoulder for women to cry on since I was about 15 years old. So it's always been in my nature to be the nurturer and the safe place for women. Didn't help my relationship, unfortunately, but it gave me a space for where I was safe for women to be with. So it's always been my gift to do that.
Wow. Well, it's interesting that you said something. You admitted that you had relationships. Okay, let's just unpack this for a moment. All right. You admitted that you know what? They just failed. And now, first of all, let's back up. We know you have masculine energy and feminine energy, right? So right there, but to actually admit, to say, okay, I did, what am I doing wrong? And what I love about what you just said is that you actually worked on yourself. You didn't say, hey, that relationship didn't work out. It was her fault. It was her fault. And I think that's the key thing, is when you're doing that. But listening to you, I can see why women enjoy speaking to you. You have a very trusting, authentic way. And that's important with anybody that's an expert. So when that happened, then what happened from there, Barry? So you found out you just really embraced, being in that feminine energy and welcoming it. And you were in relationships, right, that were more, where the female was a little bit more masculine dominant, correct, with their personality.
Well, one of the keys, and this is the thing I tell my clients as well, is be aware of what your past relationships, the common threads of past relationships. Because the thing is, that relationship that happened in 2006, the breakup, the pattern dynamics, the way I felt afterwards, the same thing that happened twice before. So 3 times in a row, the same relationship experience, different women. Because I'd been attracted to the same patterns. Not intentionally, not consciously, but in my unconscious. And that's the thing about relationship choices. We tend to be driven by an unconscious programming. That's not what we're thinking. It's just how we get drawn in. And oftentimes we end up repeating the same patterns again and again, as a large part of my work, because I went through that myself. The thing I discovered, though, for me, that put me in this work as well, is understanding what it meant to be a masculine man meant I finally understood that I need to have a why in my life that was more than just, I want to date, when I have fun, I want to play. It's like, what is my calling? What is my passion, my purpose? Because in the masculine, and let me differentiate between masculine and macho. The way I've described macho, because it's been my experience, the machismo, is it's ego-driven, selfish, and it's neck up. It's not very feeling. It's not very gentle. It's like it's head and balls, basically. That's kind of the way it works together. That's the male energy, which is unfortunately what's been driven so many parts of life. The masculine energy is heart and spine. In terms of physiology, it means it's a strong spine for direction and purpose, an open heart with compassion and care. So a man who's in his masculine is usually serving something greater than himself. Whereas a macho man is usually serving only himself. A little difference there. And so that's why I differentiate in a very simplistic way. And so what I've been doing for the last 15 years since that transformation happened is living my life teaching and serving the feminine on the planet. And I've actually been single that time because what I've learned is that my purpose is what fulfills me. And a relationship can add to that, but it won't replace it. And so I've been willing to let go of that requirement. And to be transparent, having done all this work, it's hard to find someone to date who hasn't done their own work as well.
So. You said something that is so important. It's hard, right, when you've done work on yourself. And tell me a little bit about the type of, you're atypical, and they're not atypical, but when a client comes to you, and I'm assuming you deal with more women than men, but I can see you leading men. Definitely. There's no question about that. What do you tell them? What are your first steps that you say to them? And sometimes I know it could be tough to give somebody feedback or criticism.
Mm-hmm. Well, the reality is that for my clients and for anybody is that who we are is okay. It's what we've done that may not work for us. So it's learning to differentiate the two, because we make mistakes, but it's the mistakes we have to work with, not who we are. Because in spiritual terms, from my background in spiritual psychology, we talk about we're spiritual beings having a human experience. So we are already divine and perfect and whole. However, what we do and function as may not be mirroring that so well. So in our relationship choices, we may have made mistakes, may have made bad choices. We may have chosen relationships that really hurt us. And so my work with my clients is oftentimes to help them remember that they're okay, and that the patterns they've been running haven't helped them. So let's rewire those patterns if you don't carry them around anymore. Does that answer your question? Maybe.
Yep. No. You did. So that's usually what they come, and that's what you start. So also you teach women in particular, and I'm not trying to overshadow the men over here but really when they come to you for seeking out your services, and I don't know what age demographics you're dealing with, but you can add that in this question, is one of the things is you teach them how to love themselves again, which is so important. And that's a work in progress. And tell me, could you expand a little bit more about that?
So to answer your first part, most of my clients are usually above 40, 45, give or take, because most of these women have been through, they're past the point of having the kids and marriage or relationships, and they're looking for how to move forward. And part of the journey, as I mentioned, one piece is to definitely go back and heal the patterns of the past, but the big piece of the work is really fall in love with themselves again. I mean, as a man, it's not easy to say that because, we're tough, we're strong, we don't love ourselves. It's not, but the reality is we need just as much as women do, is self-love. But it's more than just, I love myself, I'm fine. It's like, no, it's also to really to apply the loving to the parts inside that hurt, those wounds, the issues, upsets, past experiences that don't work for us. And so self-love is an ongoing journey of support so that we choose for ourselves more effectively. We make better choices. We do things for ourselves that are more nurturing, more supportive, more inspiring. And so in relationship choices, we don't settle for less than we deserve. To be honest, in a simpler way, I help my clients with the past, the present, and the future. The past being the past baggage, the issues in the past. The present being, how do you take care of yourself, love yourself, and fulfill yourself? And then the future is where you want to go, what you want to attract. And the reason why I call myself a relationship attraction expert is because what women may not have been reminded of is the feminine energy is a magnet. That women, when you're on your feminine, you can attract anything and everything, which means you have to have discernment. So be clear what you want and let it come to you. Because the thing is, a lot of women have been trained by our culture to act like the men and go pursue what they want, to chase what they want. Well, for us men, if we get chased by a woman we like, we're like, sure, no problem, which is what I did. And of course, I get lazy, which is what men can do. We don't do the work. So for women, you want to be attractive, but also be discerning so that men who you want to be around can find you, but then they need to do the work to actually court you.
And, that is so true. And in light of what's happened over the last 18 months, actually, we're going to be 24 months with what's going on in the world. And because people were not getting out there and connecting in person, they say that traditional style of courting has really, that's something that has come back to be, to be the new norm, is getting to know somebody a lot differently. So you said that you basically, most of your clients, not all of your clients, but are 40s and plus.
Mhm.
And how do they deal with going through the aging process? That when you start coaching them and putting themselves online, and we put so much in the visual in portion of how we look, because when we think of feminine, right, what do we think of? We think of all curvy, but so let's unpack that a little bit more.
The way I describe it, and this is something I've learned myself, is that what has been said before is like men are attracted visually, and women are more attracted more kinesthetically, so your feeling level. What it really comes down to, the way I break it down very simplistically, really, is that what men are attracted to is the light a woman shines. So it's not about their physical characteristics unless it is a magnifier for their light. Meaning that a woman's attractiveness, like how she wears her earrings and the makeup she wears and the way she carries herself, is a way of presenting her light to the world. For men, what women are looking for is that sense of trust they can have in him. Yes, it's good if they look good, because it's what leaps off the page, so to speak, is what you look in the page and go, oh, that person's attractive. Well, when you meet them in person, are they really attractive? Or is it all that look they had in that two-dimensional picture? So for men, what we need to be for our women is reliable, trustworthy, and solid, so they can lean on us. There's something about that women have, when they find a man like that women can trust, is miles above what they've had in the past. For many women, they've had men that don't present that to them. And that's the one thing about the masculine energy, particularly. It's a very grounded energy, and it's what changed my life when I started realizing that I can really stand in that place. And it's not so much physical strength, it's almost emotional strength.
Mm-hmm.
And that place to hold. So it's a gift to bring that.
Emotions, and that's something, we are all driven, and especially women in general. You're right. We're very emotional driven, and that is so true. And we need to know that somebody is going to be there for us. But I think too, there's another side to that. Sometimes women will recognize that somebody coming into their life, and maybe you agree or disagree with it, is not the cure-all. Right. And that's something that I'm sure that you try to tell that somebody's not going to save you. So what do you try to, inspire and get, touch on with your clients when it comes to that?
We've been trained by Hallmark and various romantic movies to think that when someone shows up, they make us feel okay. The quote from Jeremy Maguire I always use is about "you complete me." Well, it sounds romantic, but it's absolutely bullshit, to be blunt. Because
wait, disclaimer, I am a big Hallmark junkie. So, okay, go ahead.
This is the thing, is that it's wonderful to enjoy the fantasy, but the reality is none of us are incomplete. So when you say "you complete me," that's a trap, because it implies that you're not complete. The other person's going to be your completion. And I have a video series on YouTube called Cracking the Codependency Code. I did a shot with a friend of mine, and we did like a 2-hour conversation that she made into 5 videos. And one of them, we talked about the puppet master. Because what happens when you're in a codependent relationship, because when you are incomplete and somebody else makes you feel better, then they're in charge of your feelings, because they're making you feel better. So if they take that making you feel better away from you, you get upset. So literally, their presence and the way they treat you is what makes you feel a certain way. You let it make you feel a certain way, versus you feel okay anyway. And then when they show up, you're like, oh, it's even better. But the trap is in codependency. We end up being so enmeshed with other people, they almost have like puppet strings to control your emotional state. So when you're in a relationship with somebody and they upset you, that's not actually accurate. You're getting upset by something they did or didn't do. But when you say they upset you, you're giving them power over your feelings. The reality is, if they're doing something you're getting upset about it, you get to do the work on yourself so they don't trigger you anymore. But it's not about them doing anything different. I mean, within reason. I mean, if they're keying your car, that can be upsetting. But the thing it comes down to is that you still need to do the part to disengage the emotional reaction, so you can then handle what needs to be handled in an effective way.
And that it's true, because that's what happens. We give somebody permission that really overtakes our emotional being. But, it's interesting because women that I speak to, when it comes to getting out there in the dating world, and younger women too, they fantasize. So as a matter of fact, I had a gal that I was speaking to not too long ago who met somebody online, hadn't met them yet. They had conversation, but she said, this could be the one. And what can we do? And right away, before you know it, we've already met the person, been courted, got married, had babies or kittens or whatever it is, right? And going off on a cruise. But so what do you recommend to not to really kind of stay grounded and just look at try not to have an expectation level and not to actually start daydreaming? What do you recommend?
Well, it's okay to have a positive ideal of what's possible. Yes. But when you start building a house without any foundation, you're really risking it collapsing. And yes, it's true. I mean, I've done it myself in the past too. Men and women both do this, is we build a fantasy on top of what isn't true yet. And it's challenging because it's our heart. So we get very caught up in what's happening. However, when you've met somebody, just keep checking in with the reality of what's happened so far. Like, you've seen their profile, great. You've had a couple of text messages. Have you had a phone call yet? Have you done a video chat? Which I recommend highly, by the way, early on, especially with the current situation we're in. A video chat is a much more safe way to meet somebody than you can decide if you want to meet them in person. Because there are many, many instances where people met in person and who they were in real life didn't have any relationship to what they put in their profile. So don't presume yet. Yes, have a high possibility. Be positive about the possibility of being somebody special, but don't be too attached to that result having to happen. You won't be so disappointed if it doesn't work out, and then you'll be excited when it does.
So that's interesting. You were talking about your profile and online. So what do you recommend with your clients when it comes to dating and getting out there? Because, there's a certain age demographics that's still a little resistant to that online dating. We hear a lot about it. So what do you tell your clients in order to maximize their exposure to meeting somebody?
Well, first of all, I'm not an expert in writing dating profiles. There are other people I know who are good at that. I can refer people to them. But I do know that when you're putting a dating profile up, be honest. Right? Yes, be willing to put your age specifically. Don't say up the top it's like this age and say in the comments, well, I'm really 10 years older than that. It's like, that doesn't work so well, because it creates a sense of distrust. And if your dating profile is meant to encourage someone to meet you, then you want to make sure it tells them who you are. So pictures that are telling you people who you are, like having pictures of yourself, not of just of your pets. If you with your pets, if you need to, yes, but not just. I mean, I'm a single guy, so I'm on the dating app. So just be transparent. I've seen a smorgasbord of different profiles, and some of them almost crack me up. I almost want to write to them and say, I can help you write a better profile. And I'm not an expert. I can see where their gaps are. But like another thing is also, if you're somebody who's coming back into dating after a long time, put in what you're looking for up front. If you're looking for a monogamy, serious committed relationship, put that in the profile. Don't just put it in the preferences at the top, but write it out so people see it. Because some people in the dating apps are just looking for hookups or for something simple. And if you want more than that, make it front and center so people will see it. So in your dating profile, put accurate pictures. Don't put pictures from 10 years ago, please. That's regardless of gender. Both genders do this. Write about what you want, be honest, and be willing to be blunt with people in the dating apps. Because the other thing also, you might be getting attention you don't want. And if you're noticing, that's the other thing, if you're getting feedback like by getting 6, 7 different people approaching the same way and it's not what you want, what's in your dating profile that's inspiring that? Because that can be feedback. You can adjust your dating profile accordingly.
And that's good advice. And I always tell people to, if you want to write a killer profile and have somebody help you, it just makes it all that much better. You pay somebody to write your resume, so why not do the same when it comes to your dating profile? All right, so let's transition.
One quick thing. I would also recommend you may want to get somebody of the opposite sex to look at your profile, because that will give you more feedback as well.
Love that advice. Everybody listening, he is so right. You are so right. So, and I understand what you're saying when it comes to being transparent. That is so true, and being authentic, putting your age, because I myself too, I'm single as well, and sometimes now this is a stigma that does happen with women in their 60s. People just won't give them a chance. And that's something too. So I think it's important that we do the same as women and men, wouldn't you say? Not to always, even though sometimes a profile might not look the best, right? Give them an opportunity.
Yes.
Maybe or no.
Well, it's the thing. Pictures can tell a story.
Yes.
So what story are you telling?
Right. That's true. So an incomplete profile really doesn't work. And I definitely agree. I agree as a woman that's dating and also as a woman that's out there helping, other people put their best foot forward. So I want to transition from this book. Okay. Yes. 50 ways to love your lover. All right. So tell me, is this book about you or who is this about?
Well, the way it's described is 50 principles for healthy relationships.
50 principles, but still it's 50 ways to love. But you're right. It's just healthy.
And every one of those principles I've learned through either mistakes or through my own education. So I didn't tell stories in there. It's a teaching book versus a self-exposure book. That book, it started out as social media posts, literally. I was writing about what I believed early on in my coaching work. And I put up on social media different principles. I ended up with about 60 different things I was writing about, like putting up a different one every day. And a friend of mine said, you should probably save them, do something with those. And I was like, I don't know what to do with them. For about 2 weeks, I put them into a Word document, let them sit there, and a little voice in my back of my head said, write a book. And I was almost going like, what's that? Distraction, just not interested. After I had a week and a half of this, I finally said, okay, because the voice wouldn't stop telling me, write a book. I said, how would I do it? And it showed me. What I had done is I'd written the intros to all the chapters. So I ended up with 50 because I had some duplicates and stuff in there. And it took me 6 weeks to write the book. And then I got scared for a year and didn't do anything with it. So the book's been through its journey.
Well, you know what? It probably is a great book. So listen, for our listeners out there, the 3 tips that you would give them from the book, as far as if you're in a relationship or maybe even looking, just quickly, just 3 tips that you would recommend, principles that they can use that you think might be the best. I'm sure all 50 are fabulous.
Well, there's a few things in there. I've mentioned a few of them in this conversation, but one of them is do your own inner work so that you're not at the mercy of what other people think of you or say about you. So you can be autonomous and don't react to everything that happens around you. So that's one of them. Another one is really to put yourself first in terms of self-nurturing, taking care of yourself, doing things that make you feel good. Because again, when you take care of yourself, then you don't need other people to do it for you, but when they do, it's a bonus. So that's 2. What's another one? I'm just thinking like something that one's pull from. Well, one of the things to talk about, which is true for men, especially with women as well, is what is your why? What are you up to? What inspires you? Find what really fulfills you and go do that, because that you can bring back to the relationship as well, whether you're single or in a relationship. So have something that inspires you in the world and makes you passionate about something, that makes you, because when you're passionate and you're focused on something, it makes you more attractive. So the side effect of doing something great is people go, wow, she's cool, he's cool, which makes you more attractive if you're single. And if you're in a relationship, you might just get more attention from your lover.
Well, you're right. And when you find what you're passionate about, you shine. When you shine, what does that do? That's an attraction magnet.
Yeah.
You just said it yourself, and that is so true. Okay, so I always like to talk to my guests. I like to talk a little bit about them as well. So I'm going to put you on the hot seat, Barry.
Yes.
I mean, listen, this is Las Vegas, right? I'm in Las Vegas. They say there's no rules, but there are rules. But so I have to ask you, first of all, we talk about movies. What is your all-time favorite movie?
Oof, boy. I got to pick between 3, actually.
Okay, share them.
Well, Top Gun, when it came out, that was 1986 was a very, very powerful year for me. And that movie I saw 4 times in 1 year because it was such a profound moment in my life. So the victory of that. Princess Bride, because it's one of my favorite movies of all time. That's actually, to be honest, that's probably my favorite movie of all time, Princess Bride. I can quote most of it off the top of my head. The other one I was going to say was Galaxy Quest, because I'm a science fiction nerd. And Galaxy Quest was the most joyful, loving send-up of Star Trek and those sort of movies, and I always loved it. But I'd say Princess Bride is my favorite of all 3.
Interesting. I would never expect Top Gun. Yes, now I didn't Your last one, the Galaxy Quest or whatever. I have not seen that one. Princess Bride is great because listen, let's face it, I like all those type of movies. All right.
Mhm.
So what is your favorite song?
Favorite song? That is always changing.
Well, that's okay. You have anything lately that you've just really loved to listen to?
Actually, so having said that, being very present, I did a retrospective because I happened to find a YouTube video. There was a documentary on one of my bands growing up called Genesis.
Okay.
And so I happened to start listening to a bunch of their older songs on in iTunes and just remembering all the songs I loved from back then. So Landmarks Down on Broadway was one of my classic favorites of all time, which is from Genesis back in the day.
Okay.
When Pete Gabriel was still with the band. But there are other songs over the years. I mean, I have because basically I listen to a lot of eclectic music, so I don't have anything particular I listen to all the time because my music taste varies. So, so if
Okay.
you want to pick one, then Genesis.
And any book, any great book that you've read that really stuck with you, whether it's business, a personal.
A book I listen to audiobooks a lot. A book I listened to a couple of years ago that really landed for me was a book by Michael A. Singer called The Surrender Experiment. And it's basically his biography and his journey and how he got led to where he got led to by surrendering was such a powerful story about how spirit works through our lives. So that book was one of my favorites I've read. My favorite book of all time, though, is Illusions by Richard Bach.
Okay, interesting. So let's take a moment and talk about the spiritual well-being, because that's something that you've really, really started you 3.5 decades into this and how you've kind of evolved into this particular world, helping people. So spiritually, where do you stand? I mean, what makes you feel good about yourself on the inside and helping other people?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, we're spiritual beings having a human experience from my background in spiritual psychology, but I've been a member of and a licensed spiritual counselor for my spiritual center in LA called Agape, which I've been going to for 28 years now.
Wow.
And that teaching, I mean, I was studying with Course in Miracles with Marianne Williamson before that and other teaching before that. So I've been in a spiritual journey for a long time. But I was born and raised Jewish up until my bar mitzvah, and after that, things went off the rails a bit for me because I didn't find myself aligned to that teaching. So I started out religious, became more spiritual. And so for me, having had a couple of near-death experiences and having had some spiritual, openings is an understatement, but being blown open by spirit, I know that this experience we have here is only part of our experience, not all of our experience. The way I describe it with a friend of mine is that basically, when we're born, we come in and we're given a rental car, which is this body. And we drive this car through life. And at the end of our life, we get out the rental car, give it back, and then we go back to where we come from, which is our spiritual expression. So I believe that this human experience is not the be all and end all of us. We don't start when we're born and end when we die. We check in when we're born and we check out when we leave, so to speak. So I have a firm belief of that. And I have enough experience and I have friends of mine who are, let's just say, connected to the other side, that I know there's more to this than just human experience. So that's the small way of saying what's so big. And
you're Jewish, so they don't believe in that, I thought, technically. I thought most Jewish people feel when you die, you die. But
we believe in we don't believe in hell. We don't believe in Satan.
Okay.
That part's for real. But again, I left the spiritual, even though I'm still Jewish by sort of blood, I don't feel Jewish by my spiritual beliefs.
I understand. Listen, I'm a cradle Catholic. I totally understand. But I have to ask you, your accent, your dialect, where is it from?
I'm English.
Okay, so I thought so. No wonder I fell in love with your accent, ladies. Okay, so all right, so Barry, what are you looking for in a relationship? I get a lot of ladies that listen to this. You never know, you might get a bunch of DMs.
Well, I'm looking for a woman. As I said, I've been on this birth journey for a long time, so I want to be with a woman who's done her work in her own way that may complement what I've done. That's the starting point. And then someone who is willing to do, and ultimately I'm looking to find a partner to speak on stage and teach this work with. Spiritual, relationship, all of that stuff. So someone who's got a background and that she owns her path in the world and she takes care of herself. I mean, I exercise every day. I hike and I bike every day. Now, thanks to having an Apple Watch, I've been committed for over a year doing this since the lockdown. And I want someone who's going to basically do the same thing so that can keep me going. I mean, it's selfish, I know, but someone who can play with and explore with and travel with and all those sort of things. So someone who's And someone's got a passport. So
Oh, passport. So important, don't you think? You just never know, because eventually the world is not going to stay the way it is. It might have changed, but I definitely. So on closing thoughts, is anything you'd like to share with our listeners? Anything that you think would be important? I would just love for you, give you that opportunity.
First of all, say we all deserve love, and we all deserve amazing relationships, and we deserve our own love first. Start there. Everything else is easy or easier.
Wow. Well said. Like I said, I have been in the presence of an icon, and seriously, I can't begin to thank you, the information you shared. And again, those of you that are out there that are listening, that'll be watching, please send me a note. I will put your name in a hat and I will draw it and I will send you one of Barry's books, because I'm going online today and I'm ordering a few of them. And then I'll send you my book as well, Going from Just One to a Plus One. So for everybody out there, please, as you heard Barry say, and this is what I always say, love what you do, because that really makes you shine, and continue to stay healthy, happy, and safe. And as I always say, spread love. Have a fabulous day. Bye, everybody.